Yeah, I want you to sum up for us, maybe now using, and we don't have to spend too much time on it. Just reflecting on all these steps that we've gone through, but using your current company, Standard Bank, to say, when we talk planning, there must be where at Standard Bank the bigger planning happen. Which are the business units that you have? How do they communicate? But don't spend too much on it. I just want you to sort of like, because the application is really application, the real situation. And just quickly run through what you know. What you don't know, you don't know. And some of the modules are still coming in your Johannesburg Business School MBA program. So you may not have everything. But where you don't have, just jump it.
Okay.
We're using Standard Bank now as a case study.
Yes, so
planning, starting from planning downward. But
okay.
let's not spend too much time though.
Okay, I'll quickly do that. So I'm in the product development space on my side, in the service space. So for me, there is no way I could skip any of these steps in terms of. Remember, when it comes to product development itself, I don't go and dream. I have to sit down to plan, informed what my customers say. So in first step, even before planning, I go to say, this is what my customers informing in terms of what do I need to develop in terms of the product the solution I need to give out there. So as I'm in the product development space, planning is very critical in terms of to say what needs to be delivered by when, how, and then for me, once I've planned, communication part of it is me. Once I've also done all the development and all those things on my side, communicating, especially my critical stakeholders, it's your ops guys. They are very critical because they service my customers. So they need to know what is my plan, what am I going to do this in the next 2 months. So I prepare them in terms of what I need to put out there. I could be either in terms of software or anything like that. And then not necessarily me being directly involved in the organizing space, but me providing that communication, either communication plan or communication strategy, putting out there to them, positioning them. Not necessarily, it allows the team leaders in the ops area to say, we need to organize our team in such a way because this and this and this and this is coming. And they give me that view to say, that makes me comfortable to say, I'm comfortable that these guys will then execute my plan accordingly. And then, not necessarily in terms of budgeting, because for me, even before I even plan budgeting, it's actually given prior to that.
But you do manage your budget.
I do manage my budget in such a way. Remember, when we come, there needs to be a place. Once they have the resources, sometimes there's training involved. If it's a new, for example, I'm introducing a new feature in the software, so there needs to be training involved. I need to ensure that the right people are there to train those guys. So that comes out of the budget as in the product space. So budgeting, so I need to make sure that I don't overuse it or train unnecessarily. Make sure that everyone is at the right time so that everyone gets the right training. Implementing, it's one function which actually, once all those are usually done in terms of communicating and getting those guys trained. So implementing for me, it most of the time it's not really difficult because I make sure in my communication I position those guys quite well. As I was mentioned earlier on, the communication piece of it is critical. Once they've understood, and I make sure even before organizing that communication is made clear so that everyone knows what to do in terms of that. So implementing for me will be now sending other additional comms which I would say, did you address this part? Did you address this part? So I make sure in terms of that. Controlling definitely is, as in the product development again, that's very critical in my space in terms of keeping the OS eye in terms of the resources. Remember, being responsible for the budget, being responsible to say, these guys have employed in terms of making sure, or the guys will say, if we added 2 additional people in terms of executing a plan. Therefore, I need to make sure that those guys are make sure that solution it's out there, either being the usage on driving the online usage in terms of people acquiring that. Yeah, monitoring and evaluation I think for me, it goes in parallel with the controlling piece. I go in between monitoring to say, as and when I get those data to say, we are experiencing this, make sure I address in between. Yes. And then you go to the reporting piece. Sometimes I would say, as much as I'm in the monitoring as well, there'll be a bit of reporting to say, because I need to get learnings. I don't need to necessarily wait for the end to do that reporting piece, because I need to get learnings to influence, to make sure, for example, 1 million customers are impacted before I start to report, or even now go to correction, which is the last phase. I make sure that maybe in the monitoring I address before, let's say I'm targeting 4 million customers. By the time I get to 4 million, I realize there's a bug, for example, in a certain software. Then I make sure that I go back, correct, even before doing the reporting. So for me, it jumps in between step 8 and 10. So yeah, for me is addressing, but reporting for me, then reporting, actually, that's critical, because I usually go, I don't prefer talking. So for me, putting something on paper and positioning quite well. I mean, that I know the fact that I'm good. I will put it and I'll explain it very well. Dashboard, because I know that very people are quite visual. So sometimes that dashboard, something visual, makes them understand to say, this is where we are. We've hit so many. This is what we've done in terms of deploying. So I think also my manager is quite like that. Doesn't like a lot of detail, gets bored. So yeah, yes.
Great stuff. Well done. That is wonderful. I'm glad that you're seeing these things at your real life situation at Standard Bank as you learn them from the JBS MBA program. And that is the whole idea of application of the knowledge and integrating the various pieces from your various modules into one.
Yes. And sometimes like now, that is some paper we're going through, myself and you on this. Sometimes you don't realize that actually the knowledge I'm getting, I'm actually using it in my MBA. Now that we're discussing, that's when some of the things are actually coming to my head to say, actually, I somehow been implementing some of those things. And much I might not be sometimes directly involved, but I'm influencing what needs to happen in terms of that. Because for me, even in the planning phase, it needs sometimes, I need to also align to the strategy that is coming from the group, and then make sure everything I do. So for me, I look at group and what my customers say, and I align the two in terms of executing that plan.
Wonderful.